My name is Margaret. I'm 62 years old, and I thought I had survived the worst that life could throw at me. I had buried my husband, raised my only daughter, and worked my hands to the bone to keep a roof over our heads. After decades of hardship, I believed I had earned peace, that the worst storms were behind me. But I was wrong. Because nothing can prepare a mother for the day she realizes her daughter has been used, deceived, and betrayed, not by an enemy, not by a stranger, but by the very man she trusted with her heart. This is the story of how my son-in-law tried to steal the home I built with my late husband, and how I fought back, not just to protect the bricks and wood, but to protect my family's soul. The house I live in isn't fancy. It doesn't have marble floors or crystal chandeliers, but every corner, every floorboard, every chipped piece of paint has meaning. When I first stepped through the door with my husband, Thomas, I was only 27. We were young, broke, and hopeful. The house was old even then, but we saw its potential. Together we fixed it up. He hammered, I painted, and we laughed through the mess of it all. That house wasn't just shelter. It was proof of our love, our sweat, and our sacrifices. When Thomas died of a sudden heart attack a decade ago, the house became even more precious. It was where I could still feel him. His favorite chair was still by the window. His scent clung to the old work shirts hanging in the closet. The garden he planted still bloomed every spring. I promised myself one thing: this house would never leave the family. It was supposed to go to my daughter Anna when I passed on. That was the plan. That was the legacy. But plans, I've learned, can be stolen. Anna was always my joy. She wasn't loud or bold, but she was kind. She studied hard, became a nurse, and poured herself into helping others. I worried she worked too much and loved too little. She had boyfriends, but nothing serious. Until Mark. I remember the first day she brought him home. "Mom, this is Mark," she said, her cheeks glowing. Mark was the kind of man who made an impression, tall, well-dressed, with a smile that could charm anyone. He shook my hand firmly, called me Mrs. Mitchell, and carried himself with confidence that bordered on arrogance. He brought flowers, expensive ones. He complimented the house, too much, in fact. He ran his hand along the banister of the staircase and said, "This place has character. You don't see homes like this anymore." Something in his tone unsettled me. It was as if he wasn't admiring it, but evaluating it. Still, I stayed polite. If Anna was happy, I wanted to be happy for her. As months passed, Mark became a fixture in our lives. He was attentive to Anna, always picking her up from work, buying her gifts, taking her out. Too attentive, I thought, almost like he was putting on a show. I tried to dismiss my unease. After all, what mother wants to admit that the man making her daughter smile might not be what he seems? Less than a year later, Mark proposed. He rented out a restaurant, ordered champagne, and presented a diamond ring that sparkled under the lights. Everyone clapped and cheered. Anna cried and said yes. That night, after the party, I asked her quietly, "Sweetheart, are you sure? It's so fast. You barely know him." She looked at me with pleading eyes. "Mom, I love him. He makes me feel safe. After Dad, I didn't think I could ever find someone who cared like this. Please, just trust me." Her words struck me deep. I wanted her to have happiness, to feel the love I once had, so I swallowed my doubts and gave her my blessing. The wedding planning was rushed. Mark insisted on handling most of the arrangements. "Don't worry, Mrs. Mitchell. I'll take care of everything. I don't want Anna stressed." At first, it seemed thoughtful, but then I noticed he was controlling. Choosing the venue, hiring the lawyer for the marriage documents, even suggesting how the finances should be merged. I voiced my concern once. "Mark, shouldn't Anna be making some of these decisions?" He gave me that polished smile and said, "She trusts me. Isn't that what matters?" And Anna just nodded along. The day of the wedding arrived quickly. It was beautiful. I can't deny that. Anna looked radiant in her dress, her face glowing with love. I sat in the front pew, clutching tissues, wishing Thomas could have been there to walk her down the aisle. Mark looked every bit the perfect groom, handsome, composed, confident, too confident. When they said their vows, I prayed I was wrong about him. I prayed I was being paranoid. But sometimes a mother's instincts are sharper than prayers. It was only a week after the wedding. I was in the kitchen, kneading dough, when a sharp knock echoed through the house. When I opened the door, there stood Mark, in a suit, his hair slicked back, a wide smile on his face. Beside him was a stranger, carrying a leather briefcase. "Margaret," Mark said warmly, "good morning. May we come in?" Confused, I stepped aside. They entered, the stranger introducing himself as Mr. Lewis, a notary. We sat at the kitchen table. Mark laid out a stack of documents and slid them toward me. "Just some paperwork we need to finalize now that Anna and I are married. Nothing major." I glanced at the top page. My chest tightened. It was a property transfer form. Mark leaned forward, speaking smoothly. "It's just common sense. The house should be under our names now, mine and Anna's. That way, everything is unified, safer for the future." I stared at him, then at the papers, then back at him. "Excuse me? This house belongs to me." He chuckled lightly. Of course. You can still live here. Nothing will change, but legally it should be ours now. Don't you want Anna to have security?" My blood ran cold. This wasn't about Anna. This was about control. I turned to my daughter, who stood by the doorway, silent, her face pale. She wouldn't meet my eyes. That silence was worse than the papers. I pushed the papers back across the table. "No," I said firmly, "this house is not changing hands. Not now, not ever." Mark's smile faltered. His jaw tightened. "Margaret," he said softly, "don't make this difficult." "Difficult?" I snapped. "This house was built by my husband and me. It's mine, and it will stay mine." His eyes darkened. The mask slipped, revealing the greed underneath. "You're standing in the way of your daughter's future." I rose to my feet. "No, I'm protecting her future, and I will protect this house until the day I die." The silence stretched. Finally, Mark gathered his papers, his face hard. "You'll regret this," he muttered. Then he stormed out, the notary following. Anna trailed after him, tears in her eyes. She didn't say a word to me. That cut deeper than his threats. That night, I sat alone in the house, clutching Thomas's old shirt, praying for strength. In the weeks that followed, the cracks in Mark's mask widened. He became short-tempered with Anna, snapping at her over small things. He disappeared for hours, sometimes days, with flimsy excuses. Money started vanishing from Anna's account. When I confronted her, she tried to defend him. "Mom, he's just stressed. He's trying to build a future for us." But her eyes betrayed her words. She knew something was wrong. One evening, she arrived at my door, her face blotchy from crying. "Mom," she whispered, "I think I made a mistake." She confessed everything, how Mark had convinced her to give him access to her savings, how he'd taken out loans in her name, how he'd promised it was all temporary. But the debts kept piling up, and the affection he once showed her had turned cold, distant, cruel. My heart broke for her. She had been blinded by love, manipulated by a man who saw her not as a wife, but as a key to my house. A month later, Mark was gone. He left without warning, without explanation, just gone. Anna found herself in debt, abandoned, ashamed. She came back to live with me, broken-hearted. For a long time, she couldn't even look me in the eye. One night, she finally broke down. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I let him use me. I let him try to take from you. I should have listened." I took her hands, tears in my own eyes. "Anna, you're my daughter. You don't owe me apologies. You owe yourself forgiveness. We'll get through this together."
And we did, slowly. It wasn't easy. The debts Mark left behind were heavy, but with time, Anna managed to pay them off. She returned to nursing, throwing herself into her work, regaining her independence. As for me, I stood guard over the house. Every nail, every brick, every memory. It still stands, not just as a home, but as proof that greed can't tear apart what love built. Anna learned, painfully, that not every man who smiles means well. She learned that trust should be earned, not given blindly. And I learned that even when our children stray, even when they fall, a mother's love must be the net that catches them. So here I am, 62 years old, still living in the same house I built with Thomas, the house that almost slipped through my fingers. Mark is gone, just a bitter memory. Anna's healing, stronger now, wiser. And me? I'm still standing, still protecting, still loving. If you've listened to my story, let it be a warning. Betrayal doesn't always come from strangers. Sometimes it wears a suit, smiles at your dinner table, and says it loves your daughter. But greed can't win where love refuses to surrender. This house is still mine. This family is still mine. And no man, no matter how charming, will ever take that away. Life has a way of testing us in the places we feel safest. Sometimes the people who smile the brightest are the ones hiding the darkest intentions. My advice to you is this: never ignore your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. And remember, real love doesn't demand your money, your property, or your sacrifices. Real love protects. It doesn't take. What would you have done if you were in my position, facing your son-in-law with a notary at your door? Do you think Anna should have realized sooner that Mark wasn't genuine? Have you ever trusted someone who later betrayed you? And what did you learn from it? If you found this story moving, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. This channel is where we tell powerful true style stories about family, betrayal, love, and survival. Every story is a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there's always something to learn and someone else who has lived through the same pain. So stay with us, because more stories are coming, stories that will make you think, make you feel, and sometimes even make you question the people closest to you.